Today, on the Inside Scoop, Georgia, the Bulldogs are working on multiple flips. Michigan gearing up for a huge month of visits. Oregon continues to win the battle for California. We got a loaded show today, but first, who doesn't love commitments? We sure do here on the Rivals Recruits channel. There were 11 commitments on this channel in 6 days, a record for those scoring at home. We do a lot of commitments here on the channel, but we had a huge week last week. We had major commitments to Oregon, Michigan, Kentucky, Penn State, Florida, Florida State, Auburn, just to name a few. And in this video, we bring you all the action. But this is the best action, right? This is the moment when the decision is made, when the hat goes on. Enjoy it. A week of commitments here on the Rivals YouTube channel.
With all that being said, for the next 3 to 4 years, I will be taking my talent to University of Auburn. War damn Eagle.
With that being said, I'll be going to the University of Clemson.
With that being said, for the next 3 to 4 years, I'm blessed and excited to announce that I will be committing to Indiana University.
With that being said, for the next 3 to 4 years, I will be committed to University of
I'll be attending the Florida State University.
With that being said, for the next 3 to 4 years, I will be committing to Syracuse.
Florida.
With that, I will be taking my next 3 to 4 years at Penn State.
So I really just want to thank everybody that's here right now. Thank everybody up here. And with that being said, for the next 3 or 4 years, I'll be going to NC State. Hey, real fat, man.
All that being said, I'm excited to announce that I'll be continuing my academic and athletic career at the University of Kansas.
And for the next 3 years, I'll be committed to.
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
For the next couple years, I'll be attending the University of Kentucky. Yeah, let's go BBN! Let's go Big Blue Nation!
I'll be committed to the University of Oregon.
All right, those were some fun ones. We got more to come. Lots more. We have so many commitments this summer on the Rivals channel. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. Let's talk Michigan recruiting because the Wolverines stay hot. 3 commitments last week. Tavares Harrington, the flip of Colt Lumpris, athlete London Hampton also in that group. Now, Harrington was probably the highest ranked of that group in the second commitment from Mount Carmel. Ethan McDowell was there, and if you weren't behind the scenes of that one, if you were here watching it, we pulled it off. I mean, Tavares Harrington wanted to commit from a restaurant, bar, nightclub. I don't know what exactly it was, but luckily Ethan was on the ground and we got it done. What a scene that was. But probably not the most surprising commitment of the trio that I mentioned. the flip of Colt Lumpris. That was a bit of a surprise. How did Michigan get this one done? Take us behind the scenes.
Yeah, the decision was sudden, but his recruitment definitely wasn't. He was one of the first tight ends that tight ends coach Freddie Whittingham really zeroed in on after joining the staff and did a really, really good job in his recruitment. Colt committed to Alabama last December, I believe. And then there was a coaching change where his tight ends coach went to quarterbacks coach, and that kind of opened things up. And then you saw schools like Texas A&M and Penn State and Kentucky get into the mix. But no one did a better job than Michigan in terms of building relationships. Whittingham went up there and spent 2 days in New Jersey with Colt and his family, watched him play lacrosse, just, put in some real relationship building time. And then they hit the spring visit out of the park. So at that point, I felt really good. He moved his official visit to Victor's weekend from June 5th. So you were thinking, all right, he's going to end the official visit schedule. Then they might have a shot at a flip. The surprise was really in the timing, Josh. He popped up for a visit on Saturday that they tried to keep really low key, and then once all the other schools started coming out, started finding out, everyone kind of the picks came in and all of that. But yeah, the visit was going so well on Saturday that there was really no need to prolong it. So they went ahead with it, and Michigan's fired up about that. He was a top priority on their board, and someone that's going to bring a lot of versatility and a really, really high ceiling to Michigan's tight end room.
Yeah. Currently ranked number 11 in the rival industry rankings, but who could be next? You wrote a great article up on the Wolverine, and obviously we have some big visits going on this summer. So some of the biggest names on the board might not be making a decision for another 6-8 weeks down the road or longer, but there will be more commitments from this class. So who are you keeping an eye on right now?
Yeah, right on the horizon, there's a few big official visits early on in the visit window. I'm keeping an eye on Seth Tillman. He's a Rivals 300 defensive lineman out of South Carolina, someone that I don't think Michigan is getting quite enough respect in his recruitment. I think they are closer to the top of his top 5 than the bottom. Georgia has been a school with a lot of buzz around it throughout his recruitment, but I think Michigan's done a really, really good job. Defensive tackles coach Larry Black has built a really good relationship with him. So I think they have a decent shot, if they survive the Georgia official visit this weekend, to land his commitment. Also keeping an eye on Lincoln Maggio. I apologize, Lincoln. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of the last name, but Rivals 300 offensive lineman from Oceanside, California. Another guy that they locked in on this spring and showed a ton of love. He had been to Michigan before, but he came back in the spring and said it was a completely different experience in a good way. So he's looking forward to his official visit on June 5th. Big fan of offensive line coach Jim Harding. And those two on the June 5th weekend are two major recruiting battles where they're going to have to beat out South Carolina, Georgia, and Kentucky, and Clemson for Seth. And then Lincoln, he's also considering the likes of Utah, Washington, Texas, and some other schools as well.
All right, so we have on the schedule 2 huge visit weekends, and we're looking at June 12 and June 19. So who are some of the most important visitors on campus late in June?
Yeah, so Joshua Dobson is the highest ranked recruit considering Michigan right now. Number 6 recruit in the country, number 2 cornerback nationally. Another guy, Joshua, I've been harping on it on our site, man. I think Michigan is a little bit slept on in his recruitment. And frankly, he felt the same when I went and visited him in North Carolina. He had just included the Wolverines in his top group and was telling me he doesn't know why more people aren't talking about Michigan with him right now. And he backed that up by swapping out LSU, a school that many thought led for him at one point early in the cycle, for Michigan on that June 12th weekend. And that's a huge visit weekend. It'll be his parents' first opportunity to see campus. He went up with his grandma earlier this year, and they left a really good impression. Michigan's combination of academics and athletics is something that's really intriguing for him, and I think they might be A&M's biggest challenger at this point going into visits. So that's going to be an exciting one to follow. And then Victor's weekend, yes. Josh, it's loaded, man. I mean, you've got Dakota Garant, someone we've talked about a lot on this channel. That he's someone that they're just going to keep swinging at. They're sending 5, 6, 7 coaches to Harper Woods High to see him whenever they get a chance. He's the number 1 player in Michigan, and they want to keep the best in-state kids home. So we'll see if they can continue to close the gap on Oregon. I think it's really close right now. We'll see if they can take the next step and leap past the Ducks. That's going to be a true heavyweight battle. I'm excited about that. And then another guy that they're taking a big swing on right now is Jaden Nelson. He's a Texas Tech commit, number 4 linebacker in the country, and a top 50 prospect overall. And I talked to Jaden throughout the spring, and he consistently told me, even after his Texas Tech commitment, that he would be interested in visiting the Wolverines. And I just couldn't get a great feel for how strong that interest truly was. Well, Michigan went down there twice. They had a really good in-home visit recently, and that's when he ended up locking in a Victor's Weekend official visit. So he'll be there June 19th through the 21st, and that's going to be a tough flip to pull off. Going competing with Texas Tech for an in-state kid at a place where it's been very public. He's been very transparent about kind of the NIL side of his recruitment. So that'll be a battle, but they really like Jaden. Jaden seems to really like the new staff, and we'll see how things go when he gets on campus for the first time.
Yeah. It has been a fun offseason to cover Michigan recruiting. It's been a fun offseason right here on this channel. If you're a Michigan fan, I think we've had 4 commitments. We had Jace Brewer, we had Tyson Robinson, we had Quentin Burrell, we had Tavares Harrington. Maybe we've had a couple more, but man, Michigan has to be leading the way on this channel. That's why Michigan fans, you guys got to be subscribed. Make sure you guys lock in with this channel because we will be talking Michigan recruiting all off season long. We're talking Georgia recruiting, and in this update, we got 3 flip targets on Georgia's radar that I want to ask Jeremy about. But before we get to that, Jeremy, you wrote a story about Kamon Spell, and this comes in the wake of Dante Wright flipping to Georgia. Sometimes you got to kind of take stock in what you got and see, is there another recruit that's vulnerable on this commit list? And when it comes to Kamon Spell, he was a one-time Penn State commitment, reopened that up when James Franklin got fired, and Miami was a real threat to land him. Obviously, he commits to Georgia a couple months ago, but now is Miami a threat? Is anybody a threat to flip him? And at what level concern should Georgia fans have?
Well, you're gonna have to be concerned at all times, just until the pen meets the paper, and then even sometimes after that, you have to worry, especially with a guy this talented. Getting some of his thoughts. He definitely sounds like he's locked in with Georgia. I don't expect him to take any visits anywhere else other than Georgia this summer, okay. And that's a good first step when you talk about making sure a guy is, committed and locked in. There's a lot of the, hey, well, eventually he's going to get a big offer from this school or that school, and they're going to continue to push. I think Miami will continue to communicate and attempt to get him on campus. I don't expect anything as of now, and that's the key part. As of now, I think he's locked in. I think you have to put Miami honestly, you have to keep Miami as a threat because they're a threat. If they're involved, they're a threat. Just because for one, it's a program they were a couple plays away from winning a national championship this year.
Sure.
And obviously they got a really strong class. Who doesn't want to go join that offensive group? That's a good talented group of players that they've accumulated. So they're always a threat. Right now, I would say out of 10, I probably would put it at 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And I think Kamon Spell is probably a Georgia Bulldog, and I think that's kind of where it's going to be, throughout this summer for sure.
All right, now let's get to who Georgia could flip. And the first prospect on my list comes at the quarterback position. Why not? At this point, Georgia doesn't have one in 27, and most of the top arms are committed, but there's one arm I'm looking at, and he's from Milton, Georgia. We're talking Derek Baker, made an early commitment to Tennessee, but is this one that you could see Georgia continuing to pursue?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they definitely will continue to communicate. He committed to Tennessee, and Georgia, seemingly intensified its recruitment of him. After his commitment, there was some time before he committed where he got on campus maybe twice. He was at a junior day, and Georgia didn't offer during that time, and I don't know exactly what went on there. And I know Peter Bork was a big target at the time too as well. So, Georgia didn't offer. Baker goes on and commits to Tennessee, I think literally the next week. So there was some mutual interest there, beforehand. And I think, there's some mutual interest now. But as of now, like I said about Kamon Spell, I think, if Georgia's a program knocking on the door and you're Tennessee, you have to be wondering if, eventually he will make his way to campus. He has communicated with me that that will not be happening this summer. But I do think there's a lot of interest from Georgia there, and he'll continue to communicate with them. And he's a guy that's not necessarily from the state of Georgia, but he has a lot of respect for that program, and he's definitely communicated that. And Milton Scott, C.J. Wiley, Ethan Barbour, even a younger target, Landon Gee is a guy that's going to be a big target for Georgia down the road. Georgia has a very strong hold of Milton High School. It's a big factor there. So one to watch for sure.
All right, now let's talk about one at the wide receiver position. Jameer Dean made a commitment to Penn State last month. He's from Tennessee, and James Coley and that staff over at Georgia were recruiting him. And these recruitments don't end when you commit; they only end when you sign. Is Jameer Dean a name that we could see Georgia go after and try to flip?
Yeah, I think that's going to be one that's going to be interesting to watch over the next couple of weeks. I think he has an official visit set up. I have to go back and look when it is. But getting him on campus will be huge for Georgia. If that visit happens, I think, you start to kind of see some momentum building there. He's very interested in Georgia. James Coley went up there and, saw him, and he offered that day. And like the next week, he had an official visit to Georgia. So that tells you kind of what the interest level is, and that, hey, this is a serious target. He's a big body receiver that I think, will fit in at Georgia. And I think Georgia's kind of looking to add that large guy that can go and stretch the football field. That's exactly what Jameer is.
Let's talk one more flip target. I'm going back to the Tennessee commit list. What can I say? Georgia and Tennessee are battling out on the trail, and there's a defensive lineman named Caden Fife. He's from Summerville, Georgia, committed to Tennessee early. He goes 6'5", 290 on that defensive line. I got to think Georgia's going to try to keep him in state.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one that's kind of been, there's been a lot of, visits that he's taken to Georgia. I know he camped at Georgia last year, and they offered him, and they pursued him pretty hard the first go around.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like Georgia's the only program he's really entertaining. I mean, I guess Ole Miss is also in it, and another program to watch. So I think that's one that will get interesting in the fall. We'll see how that goes. I know he has an official visit for Georgia. It's another, getting guys on campus at this point of year is huge, because that makes it the relationship real. It makes the, recruitment serious, especially if you're committed. They're on campus on an official visit. It's real, and it's something to watch. So that's where I'm at on him. I think Georgia has an opportunity to get in there and, try to make a splash there as well.
And then, of course, we can't mention flip targets without talking DJ Jacobs, the elite edge from the state of Georgia, committed to Ohio State. Where are we at right now? Have things kind of cooled down? Does Georgia need a spark in this recruitment? Where do things stand?
Yeah, I think there's definitely probably some communication. I don't know that there was a bigger target, when you started talking about, looking at the way last year's class ended, and you start looking forward to 2027. He was a big time, priority.
Yeah.
And, him committing to Ohio State, I think kind of shocked some people, with how it went, and, how quickly he got off the board. And I think Miami's probably the better option as far as trying to flip him. But I don't know what Georgia's going to do there. I don't think to me, there isn't much juice there now.
Right.
But I do think
it feels that way.
It feels like it's kind of moved on a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but he's always an option just because he's in the state of Georgia. He's a Georgia legacy, and he had a great relationship with Georgia before he committed to Ohio State. So
Yeah.
There's definitely, it's quiet now, but I would not expect it to stay quiet forever.
Right. And also, the game's got to get played. Crazy things happen during the season once the games get played. So I think we're going to be talking about this one with Georgia all the way up until signing day. Those are some of my top flip targets. Georgia fans, talk to us. Who are some of your top flip targets? Put it in the comments section below. Let's talk Oregon recruiting. Is the Ducks stay hot? They stay hot right here on this channel, because on Saturday, 6'2", 200-pound DB Malachi Taufu committed. Were you guys here live for it? Put I was here in the chat. We're bringing in Max Torres from Scoop Duck. You guys have been busy covering recruiting, so let's talk about this commitment from Malachi Taufu first. What does it mean for Oregon, and also what does it mean for the battle for California?
this was a big one for the Ducks, Josh. Going into the weekend, I had thought, and I think many others as well, thought that Cal was actually the team to beat for Tao Fu. Seeing that he's right there in the Bay Area, Tosh Lapoy was his primary recruiter when he was on the staff at Oregon, and he has really attacked the Bay Area since getting that job. So Oregon now has 2 safeties committed in the 2027 class, along with Samaj Stanford out of Oklahoma. They get a long, rangy defensive back that can do a little bit of everything. I don't think that maybe sliding down to play linebacker, if they want to add some weight to his frame, is completely off the table. That's not the plan right now, but certainly I think could be in the cards, and the Ducks have done that with all of their former linebackers that are now in the NFL. All of their recent linebacker draft picks were previously safeties, so a little fun fact for you there. And Oregon also gets another top prospect in California, which I know is big for them this cycle.
All right, so we are going to have some more action on campus here soon. At the end of June, some of these visits are really backloaded. 22 visits the last 2 weekends in June. So we're going to have some top prospects on campus. But this weekend, May 29th, Oregon gets it started. First big weekend of official visits. Who are some of the names that you're interested in seeing?
There are actually quite a few big names that are going to be heading out to Eugene this weekend, Josh. I'll start off with a big offensive lineman, Caden Moss out of Mississippi. He's going to be taking his official visit with the Ducks. I kind of see Oregon on the outside looking in for him. It's not easy to pull top offensive linemen out of SEC country, but the Ducks have done it before, so I wouldn't put it past them just yet. I think that schools like LSU and Ohio State definitely are mentioned prominently in that recruitment for Jones. Just kind of going down the list here, you have Toa Satele, one of the top linebackers in the country, the top prospect in the state of Hawaii this cycle. He's going to be kicking off his official visits with Oregon. I like where the Ducks stand there. Kind of seems like Notre Dame and Texas are a couple of the other schools rather that they're battling here down the stretch in that recruitment. Another one, I'll go with Landon Williams-Callis, elite running back out of the state of Texas. He's going to be taking his official visit to Oregon. He just dropped his top 10, but for my money, the top schools to watch in that one are Oregon and Texas A&M trending at the top. And then we'll go with KJ Green, big-time edge out of the state of Georgia. Oregon's really come on strong in that recruitment after 2 trips out to Eugene this spring. And then you have another coveted safety in Junior Tuopo from Thompson High School in Alabama, where the Ducks already have a defensive lineman committed in his teammate, Cam Pritchett. So big weekend in Eugene, no doubt.
Yeah, and you know, the last weekend in June, that's when Oregon's really going to try to make a final impression on some of these top recruits, because a lot of them are waiting until official visit season ends. We're going to see a ton of top guys come off the board in July, and whoever's left will probably come off the board in August. So that being said, who is Oregon trying to bring in late?
Yeah, there's quite a few that Oregon's trying to bring in late. I think one of the big names that's going to be out in Eugene for that June 19th weekend is Tay Walden out of the state of Tennessee, out in your neck of the woods, kind of, Josh, out of Collierville and Memphis. He is one of the top two-way players in the entire country. I do think that Oregon primarily likes him as a cornerback, but I don't think that playing wide receiver is entirely off the table. Chris Hampton, Oregon's defensive coordinator, is a Memphis native, so that could give the Ducks a little bit of an edge, an ace up their sleeve, if you will. Ross Douglas was on his recent in-home visit with Walden that the Ducks made earlier on this spring. So that's definitely one of the. We also have Brayton Feaster, a big-time linebacker out of the state of Ohio. I have my Rivals RPM pick on Oregon to win that one in the end. So they definitely like to have some of their bigger names come in later in the OV window, but it's an interesting discussion, Josh, because I don't know if that is kind of the consensus nowadays here in 2026, because some of these guys aren't even making it to OVs. They're locking in their spots before that even starts, and the calendar just continues to speed up.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. While some of the biggest names, and there's always, in that top 50, in that top 50, those guys can kind of punch their ticket whenever they want, but not everybody has a spot at any program they want. So let's talk about it. Who could be the next commitment for Oregon?
That's a great question, because there's a lot of people that you can pick from. I mean, just looking at the guys that I have predicted to Oregon right now, I think that's a good starting point. Feaster, who I just spoke about, I think that he is someone Oregon has really coveted all along in the 2027 cycle, but it looks like he wants to take his official visits before making an announcement. Dakota Grant is another one, top receiver out of the state of Michigan. I kind of view him as Oregon's to lose, even though Michigan has certainly put on the full court press, and they are one of, if not the hottest teams in the country right now in the 2027 class. I feel like every time I'm checking my timeline, Josh, they're landing a new commitment over there in Ann Arbor under Kyle Whittingham. So that's going to be a fun one to watch. But I think until Michigan shows that they can really throw the ball around, I think that Oregon's got a great shot to get that one done. And Xavier Sabb is another one that I'm watching closely here in the 2027 class out of New Jersey. Both of his brothers are at Alabama, so I think it's the easy call to say that he's going to also make his way out to Tuscaloosa. But I think Oregon's running no worse than second in that recruitment right now. So those are kind of some of the ones I'm keeping an eye on here as we get into official visits.
All right, Duck fans, that's who we're keeping an eye on. Who are you keeping an eye on? Let us know. Put it in the comment section below.